Okay. So, we have done lots of work, haven't we, with our story, right? We reread our first, next, then, and last. We came up with an introduction that sounded like who? Kind of sounded like the way he started his. You'll have to listen to this because I don't think you've heard the story that we've made. So you'll see this time I'm going to read it, and you'll notice I kind of covered up some words. And I want you to see if you can figure out why I covered up some words. You know, and then we also still have an ending that we need to come up with to kind of bring it all together. So, let's read what we have.
We were sitting on the carpet. We were writing on our whiteboards. Suddenly the fire alarm beeped loudly.
What word did I cover up? Tell.
First.
Why do you think I covered up first? What did we talk about? Kind of yesterday at the beginning when I said we were going to do first, next, then, and last, but we might come back and change some things. What did I say we might change, Reese?
The first, next, and then last.
What do we call those words? Who remembers? Tell. Temporal words. We said we'd come back and change those temporal words. When I went and rewrote this, what did I forget to do? Have us change those. So look, I covered them up. So instead of saying first, what could we say? Which means the same.
Then.
Can we say then? No, because it happened first. So it has to be a word that means, did you say then? Hold on. Here were some of our choices. In the beginning, first off, first thing, firstly, initially, one morning, one afternoon, one evening, to begin with, originally, a long time ago. Now, are all of those going to make sense here? No. So, we have to think, suddenly it beeps loudly. So how do we want to start out? First would make sense, or we could say what? Firstly, or... Are we going to say a long time ago? Did that make sense? We were sitting on the carpet. We were writing on our whiteboard. Suddenly, the fire alarm beeped loudly. A long time ago, we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly. Does that make sense? No. Not with this story, it doesn't. We could say firstly. We could say first off. We could say initially. We dropped our stuff and lined up quickly.
I like that.
What do you think?
I like initially.
Should we change it to initially?
Yeah.
Does that sound good? All right, so initially. So it's the beginning of a sentence, so I need to use a capital letter. Initially, we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly. Now look at, what does it look like is not in between initially and we?
Up here.
A space. So I think I need to change that to make it look like there is a bit of a space. Initially, we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly. Next, and I'm okay with leaving that there, I think that sounds all right. Next, we walked outside calmly and quickly with our hands at our sides. What could we say here? After, secondly, third, following, afterwards, since. Hold on, just listen. Eventually we stopped at our fire drill spot. Would that make sense?
No.
Because here initially we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly. Next we walked outside calmly and quickly. Eventually means we're done what?
Doing that.
Which is what?
Doing something.
Which was what?
We're done walking.
We're done walking. So eventually tells we've landed where we're supposed to be. Does that make sense to put eventually here? Okay, so let's put that here. All right, so let's read what we have so far and see how it sounds, okay?
We were sitting on the carpet. We were writing on our whiteboard.
be thinking how this ends. So be thinking how you have to read it. You're not reading it any different. Look at how it ends. You have to show some what? Emotion. So let's read it like that.
Suddenly, the fire alarm beeped loudly.
Initially, and I need to put the comma, initially we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly.
Next, we walked outside, humbly and quickly, with our hands at our sides.
Eventually,
We stopped at our fire drill spot and waited quietly for the all-clear signal.
okay, so last. So think about this. Lots of things are going on. We got to stop what we're doing. We got to line up. We got to get outside quickly. We got to wait at our spot. So once it's all over, what's a way to say last instead of last? Call some things out.
Finally,
Finally.
the end.
The end, we walked back. Does that make sense?
No.
Mm-mm. What do we say about the end too, though? Do we need to?
In the end.
You might want to say in the end, we walked back to our classroom. But all of this that's going on, does it take a while? And the waiting. The waiting, is it easy to wait to go back in? Does it feel like it takes forever? So what's a good word that's going to make sense in that spot?
Finally.
Finally. What do you think? Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, so finally.
Yeah, that's
Finally. Let's read. Finally, we walked back to our classroom and got busy writing words for word work. All right, now Donald Cruz, stay facing this way because I'm going to bring my book back over here. We're going to go back to our mentor text and we're going to see how he ends his story because he doesn't just end it with the last thing, right? He kind of brings it all together. Because remember, Rocco, on the last page it says, we walked home without a word. We didn't tell Big Mama. We didn't tell Mama. We didn't tell anyone. We didn't talk about what had happened for a very long time. And we didn't take the shortcut again. So hold on. Hold on. Keep those I like thoughts in your head. Eyes on me. Be thinking. We've got our beginning. Right? I want you to listen to me read it one more time and think how we can maybe come to an ending. We were sitting on the carpet. We were writing on our whiteboards. Suddenly the fire alarm beeped loudly. Initially we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly. Next we walked outside calmly and quickly with our hands at our sides. Eventually we stopped at our fire drill spot and waited quietly for the all-clear signal. Finally, we walked back to our classroom and got busy writing words for word work. Thinking about all of that, was it a real fire? No, it was just a what?
fake.
What do we call it? It was just a practice. It was just a drill. How does that make us feel when it's just a drill and it's not real? How do you feel? Call some words out.
Happy.
Happy?
Excited.
Maybe excited? If it's knowing that it's not real, do you feel maybe a little bit relieved?
Delightful.
So listen, do you feel a little bit relieved? Are you happy that it wasn't real? How could we say that? What could we say?
Glad.
So I'm going to write glad. Does that make sense? Think. Just think. What could you say? How could we say how we felt in a sentence? Think.
I feel.
Think. Hands on your head once you think you might have a sentence that goes with our story. Hattie, what could we say? We were all so glad it was just a drill. we end it just like that? Does that kind of tell? Were you glad that it was a drill and not for real?
Yeah.
Yes. I think that sounds great. Do you think that sounds like a great way to end? Just so you know. Do you think that sounds like a great way to end? Let's put that down. And I think we may have just enough room to get that in. And then I got one more thing I want to talk with you about. We were, see, I'm already on to the next word and I'm writing the wrong letters. We were all, go back and read with me.
We were all glad.
Glad or so glad? We were all so glad. Say glad. Segment it. Spell it.
G-L-A.
Let's go back and read. Uh-oh, gotta read the words that are here. And I know, Logan, I'm sitting right in front of you. Come here, we need your smart words reading too. We were all so glad. Do we need that? We were all so glad it was just a drill or only a drill? Which do you think sounds? We were all so glad it was, should we say only, like that? How would I write it like that? We were all so glad it was only a drill. How would I write it to stress the word only, Piper? Well, but I can't put an exclamation point right in the middle of a sentence. How would I write something like that? How would I write only to make the readers stress that word? What would I do? What would I do, Alexis? Well, no, I'm just thinking about only. Willow, what do you think? All capital letters, like are all clear? So, let's go back and read. Read with me, Logan. We were all so glad it was only a drill. And what do I need to put at the end to show emotion? Yes, and here with that emotion we're showing relief, right? Okay, now I need your help. Because Donald Cruz, again, in his mentor text, he, read it, oh look, read it like this. And then read it like that. Oh, is it chew? Ch-ch-ch. And then by the end, it's doing what? What can we do in our story? Oh, okay, beeps, because what does the alarm do? Beep. Okay, now listen. When we're in our classroom, show me you're ready. When we're in our classroom, what does the beep sound like? Beep, beep, beep. When we walk out into the hallway, some of you are like this. Because what does our beep sound like? Tell.
Beep, beep, beep.
Okay, stop. What can we do in our story to show that? What can we do in our story to show that? We were sitting on the carpet. We were writing on our whiteboards. Suddenly, the fire alarm beeped loudly. What can we do here? What can I do, Zach? Tell me in a sentence. We can add a short beep and a louder beep. So how am I going to do that? Don't say I forgot it. Because you didn't forget. Just give yourself some time to think. Zach's saying we're going to add some beeps. We can add the beeps and we can make them tell a sound by how we what? How we write them. Okay? So it beeps loudly, and look, I'm going to use a different color too. Do you think that will get the reader's attention? And you know what I'm going to do? I think if we just put them right up here, the reader will be able to kind of read the story and then go back and read those words like Donald Cruz, like we did with Donald Cruz's story. So right here, suddenly the fire alarm beeped loudly. So what should I write?
Beep, beep, beep.
How many beeps?
One.
1?
Three.
Maybe 3. Maybe 3 the same size.
No. Small, medium, large.
Okay, small, medium, large. Okay, so hold on. We're in the classroom and the beeps sound like what in the classroom? Show me.
Small.
So should I maybe do beep, beep, beep? Or maybe even just go beep, beep, beep? Because here initially we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly.
Beep.
But when we start walking outside, those beeps need to get what? Louder. And then once we're outside, those beeps get what again? Because we're walking away from it. Should we do that? All right, so let's see. So here if we go. And then here, you know what? Hold on, I'm going to make these the same. Uh-oh. Mrs. Scallon. When I start talking and writing, what happens? I make mistakes. That's why I tell you when you're writing to not what? Talk. You can't think and write at the same time.
Teachers make mistakes.
Absolutely we do. All right. So hold on. Okay, now here's when we start walking outside. So here's what I'm going to do. So next, we walked outside calmly. But here, because we're walking in the hallway. Uh-oh. You don't have to worry about anybody but you. And then, eventually when we're outside, those beeps get what?
You should make it big then small. Medium then small. It's too tiny. Not big.
Uh-oh. You think our reader gets the hint?
Yeah.
And then eventually it what?
Stop.
It stops. Okay. So, let's go back and read it now. Let's go back and read it again. And this will be our last time reading it, and then I'm going to give you a few more minutes to finish your illustrations. And then we need to think about a title too. There's a lot of work to go into writing a narrative, isn't there? So let's read. We were sitting on the carpet. Right now your bottoms need to be on the carpet so friends behind you can see. Preston, you can't read if you're not looking. Evan. We were writing on our whiteboards. Suddenly the fire alarm beeped loudly.
Beep, beep, beep.
Initially, we dropped our stuff and lined up quickly.
Beep, beep.
Next, we walked outside calmly and quickly with our hands at our sides.
Beep, 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 beep.
Eventually, we stopped at our fire drill spot and waited quietly for the all clear signal.
Beep, 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 beep.
Finally, we walked back to our classroom and got busy writing words for word work. We were all so glad it was only a drill. Uh-oh. What do you think of that story? Did we write an awesome story? Good job. Okay, what is our story about? What should we call our story? How perfect is that? And when I write, freeze. When I write titles, the first word, or the first letter of every word in a title is usually a capital letter. The fire drill. Get back to your seats. Finish up. I'm going to give you about 5 minutes to finish your illustrations. I'm going to add some illustrations on here quickly, and then we're going to get this posted somewhere in the room. Good job, first grade.
You did awesome, buddy. Tell your mom. Good choice. Guys, you guys.